Even though we're all celebrating our Shabbat from however many different places, we here at Congregation Schaarai Zedek truly believe that you are with us in the sanctuary, that through the screen, the energy that we send to each other comes through. So tonight we will all sing from the heart and pray and meditate and listen so that we can enjoy this Shabbat to the fullest. We begin our Shabbat service with a song, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShaaret, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nila
Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei
Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedechem
Shalom,
l'shalom,
Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And now we're going to bring in our Shabbat service with our candle lighting and our Kiddush. So I'm going to ask you to run and grab your Shabbat candles. And remember, they can be any kind of candles. So grab those and we'll light them. And at the same time, make sure to get a Kiddush cup or a cup of some kind and fill it with wine, grape juice, or some liquid of your choice. And we're going to sing together our candle blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. And now we will take our Kiddush cups and we will fill them with our juice or wine and we'll raise our cups as we sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila למקרא קודש זכר לציון מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחילנו And I'd like to say, Rabbi, I would love to welcome back to our sanctuary tonight Maria Laude, who is here playing the piano again. It is so awesome to have her back.
I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We now rise, if you are comfortable and able, for the Baruch, our call to worship. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change. And within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening.
Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed. And you may be seated. And you shall love Adonai your God with all of your heart, with all your soul, and with all of your might. And all these words which I speak of them when you're sitting in your house, when you're walking by the way, and when you're lying down, and when you're rising up, and when you're rising up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates, upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora, nora, nora tehilot, osef eleh. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora, nora, nora tehilot, osef eleh. על חוטך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה לי, ענו ואמרו, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה לי, ענו ואמרו. כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא, נורא, נורא תהילות, אוסף אלך. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא, נורא, נורא תהילות, אוסף אלך, אוסף אלך. ונאמר כי בדר נא את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the 7th day God ceased from work and was refreshed.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asod et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ביום השביעי שבת שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And now we're going to rise as we join together in the Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melach, Melach memit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimacha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai,
May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atah Melech Adon Lecho HaShalom. Ki atah Melech Adon Lecho HaShalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה לשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
At this time, when our health and the health of our families is so important to us, more so at the forefront of our minds than ever, we take this opportunity as a community to bring the names of people in need of healing into the room with us so that we can wish them healing of mind, body, and spirit. If you have someone that you're thinking of now, someone in need of healing, feel free to say that name aloud or in your heart. As we sing together our prayer for healing, Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
take a moment now for silent prayer, to get in touch with the prayers that have been waiting in our hearts to come out all week.
Acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Ihiyu leratzon imrefi. Adonai Tzuri v'goali.
The story of human history has been the story of portability. Think of the transition from the bulky Torah scrolls behind us, which of course we love dearly, to the codex-style book like the Plaut commentary that you can hold in one hand. There's a bonus where you can even pick what page you want to go to without having to roll the entire thing. Think about the humble computer, which at one time took up entire rooms at universities and labs. Now, everyone has one more powerful than its inventors could have ever imagined in their pocket. Music is another wonderful example. Before the invention of any kind of recording, you had to have a piano or some other instrument in your home and either know how to play it or pay someone to play it. That was the only way to hear music. Now fast forward, and we get the phonograph and the wax cylinder. Sound could finally be captured and played back. We then move on to the record player. Now, a portable turntable was not unheard of, but it would have been fairly heavy and unwieldy. And eventually we get to magnetic tape and audio cassettes, which made Sony's famous Walkman possible. Get past CDs, and finally we end up with MP3s, AACs, M4As, lossless audio, that's a deep cut for the audiophiles out there, and all other kinds of digital audio files. Now, I know everybody puts their music on their phones now, but I have a 120 gigabyte iPod Classic from a long time ago, relatively, that can hold 130 days of music or podcasts. I could listen to everything I have for 3,120 hours and never hear the same thing twice. From music being something simply for the elite and learned, it has become something remarkably accessible, which enriches our lives whenever and wherever we want. A similar journey has been true of Jewish worship. Let me give you an oversimplified and slightly less than scholarly explanation. I still think it will get the point across. By the time the book of Deuteronomy was written, worship in the form of sacrifice, that is, animal sacrifice, could only be performed at the temple in Jerusalem and only by the hereditary priesthood. That was the only way that people communed with God, and that was the only place you could do it. Now, around this time, a new institution arose in Eretz Yisrael, one that you might have heard of. It's called a synagogue, where a community would gather and study their sacred texts. Once the temple was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70 of the Common Era, there were no more sacrifices, and a new kind of Jewish worship had to emerge. The capital R rabbis developed over a number of centuries the rough outline of the prayer service that we still follow today. They composed prayers, lifted passages from biblical text, and crafted the daily spiritual journey that Jews take. This was the first major transition from sacrifice at the temple to prayer you can say at any synagogue. By the Middle Ages, the worship liturgy had expanded so much that only trained experts, the religious elite, knew the proper way to conduct a service at all. Around 850 CE, Amram Gaon, a Babylonian rabbi, had the brilliant idea to put all of the prayers into a book, Siddur Rav Amram, the earliest prayer book that we know of. Now, prayers lived not only in the minds of scholars who devoted their lives to study, but also in a book from which any literate Jew could pray. Obviously, manuscripts were expensive. Everything had to be written by hand. But once Gutenberg invented the printing press, Siddurim were all over the place. Now, in the early 1800s, Jews reaped the benefits of the Enlightenment in Europe. The earliest Reformed Jews began adapting Jewish worship to include prayer in the vernacular, in the secular languages in which they spoke day to day, German being the primary example. So now everyone could say the prayers from the book and understand what they were saying. From the temple in Jerusalem to the synagogues of Eretz Yisrael to the temples of the diaspora to a PDF of a Siddur on an iPad on the Bima, Jewish worship has changed to suit the times and to allow those dedicated to the experience of prayer to bring it wherever they go. And that brings us to this year. As we all know, as a congregation, due to the current ongoing public health crisis, we decided that it would not be safe to have High Holy Day services in person for the Jewish year 5781, for High Holy Days. We have spent the past few months mourning from this temporary move away from in-person communal prayer, but we as a community have also found meaningful ways to engage in prayer using technology, like all of us are doing right now. This year's High Holy Days will certainly be different from any that we have experienced in the past. But this provides us with a unique opportunity to create new rituals and find new ways to pray together. In the Babylonian Talmud, Tractate Megillah, the rabbis ask how the Jewish people can connect to God after being exiled from the Holy Land. They find their answer in a verse from the prophet Ezekiel. I have been to them a mikdash ma'at, a small sanctuary. Rabbi Yitzchak says, this refers to the synagogues and study halls in Babylonia. And Rabbi Elazar says, this refers to the house of Rav, our teacher. From these rabbis, we learn this lesson. Without the temple in Jerusalem, any place that Jews gather can be a temple in miniature, a place for God's presence to dwell on earth. In our own time, we can take the lesson further. Any place that a Jew prays, alone or with others, in public or private, at the synagogue or at home, can be a mikdash ma'at, a small sanctuary. For God's presence dwells not in the place, even though a place to gather is very nice to have, but God's presence dwells in the heart and intention of those who pray. This year, each of us is going to be making our home a mikdash ma'at, a place of eager and honest prayer. And I would like to offer some ways we can do that. To be perfectly honest, every rabbi that I know probably tried to come up with their own list. But Rabbi Elise Goldstein, who leads the city shul in Toronto, nailed it on the first try. So I'll be paraphrasing from her list. And if anyone wants the letter she sent out, I can email it to you. Number 1, choose your prayer space carefully in advance. Take some time individually or as a family to plan how to make it special. And start right now. Don't hold off till the last minute. 2, mark your prayer space as a special part of your home with a blessing. Just as an example, you could say something like, God, bless this part of our home and make our worship here meaningful and deep. But you can come up with your own. 3, think about where you will sit. You could use pillows or scarves or talitot to enhance the seating. You probably want a place that's comfortable to sit for a long time, but not so comfortable that you fall asleep, unless that's normal for you. 4, change your computer workspace by using a runner or tablecloth, maybe some flowers. It's up to you. 5, accessorize your prayer space with meaningful objects. Judaica, like candles or a shofar, are good ideas. You could even set up family photos or heirlooms that remind you of loved ones. 6, push your computer back so you're watching it rather than futzing around with it. If you can, watch the service on a TV. And the benefit is that a bigger screen will make it easier to see the prayers on the screen. 7, reduce auditory distractions. Turn off email and message alerts. Turn off your phone. Put your pets in the other room, unless they would enjoy praying with you. Then the more the merrier. 8, dress in a way that makes you feel like you're in a spiritual space. It doesn't have to be what you would wear to synagogue, but maybe don't wear pajamas. We certainly won't be. And this one is entirely my own. Prepare yourself emotionally and spiritually for services to be different than they usually are. There are going to be a lot of things that are the same. The music and the prayers don't change so much. And we can spend all the time and energy we want comparing this year to last year. But the world is just a different place. This is going to be its own experience. It is something both incredibly old and profoundly new, which we are all undertaking together. And I guarantee that you will get as much out of it as you put into it. Take the time to make these High Holy Days special. Create the space for them to be holy. If we do the work all together, our Mikdash Ma'at, our small sanctuary, will be a worthy place for God's presence to dwell this year. Shabbat Shalom. And boy, do we have some announcements. As I understand it, there's a holiday coming up next week. I just heard about it. You can find all the information you'll need on our High Holy Day schedule for this year on our temple website. It is a very easy to read and colorful chart. It is a feast for the eyes, so I recommend you take a look, or you can also check your emails. Tonight, right after services, we will have our Zoom Oneg with Rabbi Simon. It's a really nice time for everyone to get together and see each other's faces. How wonderful is that? Tomorrow morning, we have Torah study at 9:15. It's a double portion, so it's double the fun. And tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, we have our Slichot program, where we will be led in a discussion by Dr. Molly Howes, who wrote the book A Good Apology. It'll be a really interesting discussion about the psychological principles behind apologizing, and Rabbi Simon and I will bring in a little Judaically. And following that program at 8 o'clock, we will have our Slichot services from the sanctuary streaming, where we will change the Torah's garb to their High Holy Day season best. Next Thursday, that's September 17th at 11:30, we have our senior luncheon at home with the wonderful and talented Beth Hirsch. There should be a lot of really good music. Did she grow up here?
I'm sorry?
I think Beth Hirsch might have grown up here. Yeah, I guess so. It's exciting to have someone come back home and share their talent and passion with us. I think that's all there is for now.
They can always check the website, or you can always just check their website. Also, I believe there was a whole list in the mailing that went out. So there's always ways to find what's going on at Schaarai Zedek online.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we come now to our service as we rise together for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כהמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And as we approach Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, it is not lost on us that the Shabbat coincides with September 11th, a day that has embedded itself as a tragedy in the American consciousness. We think of those 2,996 people who lost their lives in the attacks on September 11th. We think of those first responders who gave their lives and those who have been suffering from diseases related to being at ground zero. So on their behalf, with their names in our hearts, we offer a prayer for them. Creator of all, source and shelter, grant a perfect rest under your tabernacle of peace to those who died in the 9/11 attacks on the United States. Remember the works of their hands and the message of their hearts. Grant their families peace and comfort for your name's sake, and for the sake of those who perished, bring an end to violence and terror and hate. Speedily in our days, May their memories be sanctified with joy and love. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life, a living blessing in our midst. At this time, we also take into our hearts the names of those in our community who have died recently. We remember Edward Stein, Albert Tawiel, Dorothy Skopp, Leo Krawitz, Ina Ray Levy, Riven Kratz, and Suzanne Schlafer. We also remember those whose yahrzeits, the memorials of their death, are commemorated on this Shabbat. Maurice K. Bach, Isabel Barber, Stephen Barron, Susan Clapp Batting, Relia Bensonoff, Alan Bernan, Isidore Besserman, Helen Blaugrund, Gertrude Trudy, Levine Brynan, Samuel Brodkin, Amy Gail Buckman, Norman Robert Cohen, Alan H. Connie, Johnny J.D. M. Dotson, Julio Eichberg, Milton Feldman, Annie Feiner, Joe Zimmer Franzblau, George Friedland, Steffi W. Gimple, Albert Ginsberg, Edith Dagendorf Gitman, Diane R. Goldman, Harry Haskell, Anne Heinig, Etta Kaufman, Walter Klages, Marvin Leibowitz, Louis Lefkowitz, Marshall Linsky, M.J. Mackler, Robert Malbin, Mary Bourgeois Norton, Richard James Norton, Lily Cronin Paris, Harry P. Porton, Isaac Ryson, Ernest Reiner, Vivian Roffer, Stuart Rosen, Darren Sewell, Harry Shapiro, Goldie Shear, Harold Schaffner, Ronald Simon, Richard Sontag, James Michael Sorrell, Abraham Stein, Howard Schwartzman, Dorothy Teichman, Benjamin Weinberger, and Lillian Zwirling. And to those names, we add the names of your loved ones. With all those names in our hearts, those said and unsaid, we rise together as a community for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yerutech v'yamlich malchutech, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam olalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yithalal, shemei tekudesha, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say together, Amen. And we close our service this evening with Ein Keloheinu.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu
And for those of us who are enjoying a late dinner, or for those who are going to bring a couple of treats to the oneg, we will say a motzi together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. V'tei avon.
Te'avon, Shabbat Shalom. May you have a Shabbat filled with love and peace.
Shabbat shalom.